Today we are painting a beautiful Arizona sunset. Okay, so the first thing I did, I taped up the sides of the paper with painter's tape. I'm using a watercolor paper block, so I don't have to, I'm not taping it down for that purpose. I'm taping it down so I can have a clean edge on my painting. This is obviously totally optional. If you have your paper taped down because you're using a pad, then you'll probably have this anyway. And then I made sure that my paper was really nice and damp. That's pretty much the key to having nice blended colors with anything in watercolor. So you have to probably keep re-wetting the paper, make sure it's wet. And as you can see, when I add the paint, it kind of starts blending on its own. And the reason that happens is because the paper's quite wet. So if it dries up, make sure to just keep re-wetting it, which I'm going to do throughout the painting, but you're not going to see that. I usually fast forward through that. It's like painting water. Who wants to see you paint water? But I do keep re-wetting the paper, so make sure to do that. And then I'm adding a dark bluish purple. I kind of mixed the dark blue and purple together, and now I'm filling in some of the empty spots where it's a little bit more like whiter than the rest. And this is your first layer. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add clouds after this dries. So it's going to help cover up some of the streak marks or the blotchy marks wherever you have a spot that you're not comfortable with. We'll add clouds. It's going to be our little, nobody will ever know. And I'll do one video where I really will go into like a really nice perfect blend, because I know some people really struggle with that. This isn't one of them. It's kind of, I start to a little bit, but because I know I'm adding clouds, I didn't spend too much time worrying about the blend. But I promise I'll do a video, because I've had people ask me about that. And then I'm adding this, it looks orange when you put it on the palette, but it is a Brilliant Cad Red from Dr. P.H. Martin. It's a concentrated watercolor. I love it because it's like this fiery red orange, so I think it's perfect for sunsets. And now I'm adding a little bit of the, I think this one was the red rose, deep red rose, which it ends up looking a little bit more pink on paper. And then I put a little bit of purple. So you can do the sunset however you want. I'm really kind of having fun with a bunch of colors, and just I keep adding to it, and I keep, changing up. The whole idea with this painting is to have really vibrant colors. And Arizona is really known for their sunsets, and we do get these amazing colors. And I don't know why, because it's pretty brown here, so I don't know why we have such colorful sunsets. I'm going off topic. So I'm adding the red, I'm adding the purple. I'm going to keep going back and forth, and I'm going to re-wet the paper, and I'm going to add a blue to the side. Where the purple is right now is kind of where I'm going to have almost like a storm looking clouds. They get that dark purple. So I'm using that as my guide, and the reason why I put the purple down first is I didn't want it to get muddy. So I'm just creating that light little layer at the bottom here. It looks kind of messy right now, right? Like, this is the point where I think a lot of people, if they're trying this and they see this, they're like, oh, I don't like the way this is looking. This doesn't look anything like a sky. It's just a hodgepodge of stuff. But it will come together, I promise. It will make sense, because we'll keep adding the layers. And that's where watercolor, you have to have a little bit more trust with it than you would with like acrylic. Because you do add layers, and the first few layers, they do tend to look like these, just a mess of colors that don't make sense. So I added a little bit of blue, and the idea with the sunset, it's darker at the bottom, and then you have the blue darker at the top, and then you have the blue at the bottom. And so I added this like bright blue for the blue sky, and then the purple is kind of, again, marking where I'm going to have clouds. And then I added the yellow because the sun is setting. So we want to have a little bit of that yellow there. And I'm just, like I said, I'm at liberty with all the colors. And if you don't like that, then use less. If you want to use more colors, go ahead. Just do whatever you feel comfortable with. And as you can see, as I add the colors, they're blending a little bit more, so they're not as crazy as they were before. It doesn't look as blotchy. So as you add the colors, again, re-wet the paper, make sure it's wet and all that stuff. And this is still the first layer. I will definitely let you know when we're done with this first layer. I'm gonna just keep working on this and fixing it where I feel like it needs a little bit more color. I really like the way the blue pops out there, so I'm gonna leave little spots with that. And the way my clouds are is it's kind of all coming towards a center point. If you watch this video in its entirety before trying the tutorial, it'll make sense. So when you're kind of looking at the horizon, the clouds go out to this. I'm using my hands to gesture because this is going to make so much sense with that, right? So as you can see, you're going to see the purple. It kind of just creates this, I don't know, just almost like pizza slices. Is that a good explanation? I'll show a picture here so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So I'm going over some of the blotchy parts that were there before. Some of the parts I'm using what the paper did naturally with the paint too. So there were parts where I didn't think maybe I don't remember which one, but I didn't think I would have a cloud there. And I was like, oh, that kind of looks good. So now we're drying, just completely dry, because once you put the layer on top, you want it to really be able to sit on top without blending. And you can see some of my parts where they're blotchy. I'm going to put my clouds there and cover it up. So yours is most likely not going to look like mine. So you might need to put your clouds somewhere else. And I'm using literally a dark purple to do my clouds. And I'm kind of using the purple base there as my guide. And the way to do clouds is to not overthink it. So just do kind of streaks back and forth. In hindsight, I think I probably did these a little bit too perfectly, this set of clouds, but it works. They do have clouds that look like that. And you want to fade some of them out because clouds aren't all the same density throughout. And I'm talking a lot about clouds here. So just a lot of this dark purple to create this illusion of the sun just making it darker than it is because the sun is setting. And if it's cloudy skies, like this time of year, we have monsoon, which monsoon actually means rainy season, but we all use the term incorrectly here. But this time of year, we have these crazy storms, and when the sun sets with these storms, it's so pretty. I'll have to show a picture here, but I just think they're so beautiful and was inspired to paint this. So I'm adding the purple in it. As you can see, I'm putting it directly over that crazy blotchy stuff and using the natural lightness from the paper to help highlight it. Like I said, in hindsight, I think I did this a little too straight. I would probably do it a little bit more jaggedy, like the clouds to the right. It still worked. I'm happy with it. It's one of those things. Every painting, I think I'm going to point out what I would have done differently. But what's cool about the way we did this with the layers on the bottom is that it gives it that dimensional look, and you may not be able to quite see it yet, but as the painting starts to come together and we add more clouds, you'll see it's pretty dimensional. So I'm just literally going back and forth, and that's all you want to do here. And I'm going to do that to the other clouds as well. And how are you guys? Are you doing well? Are you happy? Are you enjoying your summer? Are your kids back in school if you have kids? My son is in school. He started last week, so he is starting his second week tomorrow. And he's happy. He's in 8th grade. So we're at the end of the summer. We didn't do anything crazy this summer because I have an 8-month-old, and trying to travel with a baby, I was just like, that's not a vacation. So spent a lot of time at home. So anyway, so I'm doing this purple here, and what am I doing here? Oh, I'm adding some more of the red, so you can see that there is that red underneath it as it gets closer to the sun. Not literally, but as it appears closer to the sun because the sun's setting, I want to pull up some more of the colors from the sun here. And so I'm adding more of that Cad Red from Dr. P.H. Martin, which again, I love this color. It's this really bright red orange, perfect for sunsets, and it's really vibrant. So if you ever want to pick up a color that you think, if you want to just slowly put together a Dr. P.H. Martin color set, then I would probably say start with that color because it's so different from any other paint color that you can have fun with it. So I'm just adding little specks here and there. I think at this point I'm realizing I'm not really loving how straight the clouds are, because clouds are not that straight. I don't know what, I think I was just so preoccupied with covering up the blotchiness that I didn't really think through the clouds. But I'm happy with it in the end, like I said. So I'm just adding more and more, and I'm going to fix things here and there until I get it to where I want it to be. Then I'm going to do the other purple streaks. And I think this one is one of those ones where you really don't want to overthink it. Just trust the process. It is going to turn out. You may not like it at this point in your painting because it looks weird to you, but just go with it. Keep going. And that's what I usually tell people, because whenever I see somebody post in these watercolor groups and they're like, oh, what's wrong with my painting? What's going on? 9 times out of 10, the answer is you have to keep going, and they're not done yet. So it's really one of those things where I think people have this, even if you don't come from acrylic or oil, our brains just work in a way where we think we just colored in like crayons. And watercolor, you have to really kind of shift the way you think about it. If you do Photoshop or anything like a photo editing where you create graphics, that's kind of your approach where you have layers. And if you do something like that, watercolor might come pretty easy to you because you're already thinking that way. And if you've never edited a photo before, then disregard everything I just said, because you're like, what is she talking about? So you can see kind of now how the purple is really standing apart from the background. When we first put these colors on, we're looking at it, it's like, oh, this is pretty dark. How are we going to layer on top of it? But it does layer pretty beautifully. Obviously, at this point, the paper is dry. We're not doing wet on wet. It's wet on dry. That's part of the effect. And then you just fill in the blanks. It's basically what you're doing. And it really helps it pop. You can use different colors. You can use all blues if you want, maybe more oranges. Maybe you want to add black to the top. That would be really cool. You can add black to the very top and then put some stars in there. And here, like I said before, as you get closer to the horizon line, I wanted to make it pull some more colors from the sun that you don't see in my painting, but you kind of assume where it's at based on the colors. I'm adding more reds, and I'll add some more yellows and stuff too to the left there, and just kind of blend it all the way down. Maybe it's the sun that gives us all our colors. I guess that makes more sense, just having that part in there. So here I'm adding a little bit more yellows to the bottom part because it's pulling it from the sun. So just keep filling this in until it makes you happy, until you're satisfied with it. You might need to step away and take a look at it again. I like the way these clouds turned out much better than my other cloud. I have favorite clouds. Do you have favorite clouds when you paint? It's like my favorite children. So this is more what I was going for. Like I said, I think my other cloud, I just got preoccupied with covering up that one area that I didn't think about the clouds. But it really is just kind of going back and forth. There's no rhyme or reason to how you're doing it. And it's, clouds, you know, they have different shapes and different styles and stuff. If you want to do more stormy clouds, maybe try that. That might be fun. So if you do more storm clouds, like those puffy clouds where you make, you know, the, like, oh, that looks like a rabbit or whatever, then you definitely want it to be really dark underneath it and much lighter on the top. So that's kind of the trick to those. I should do a video on clouds, like different clouds. What do you think? Do you want to see a video on clouds? Do you think that would help? Do you guys have any types of things that you struggle with? Please let me know in the comments if you have, you know, if you're like, hey, I need help with clouds or kittens or flowers, whatever it is, let me know. And I will do my best to share how to do those. So I'm adding a little bit more yellow. And again, this is just, I'm repeating myself a lot because it's kind of just the same thing over and over again. But as you can see, it is covering up those blotchy spots I was talking about. So it looks a lot more blended. And, you know, just doing a mix of colors, lightening it up with water, or adding oranges. You know, one of those things you can do is not overly clean your brush too and pull some of the older colors out of it from when you're painting, like the purples and the sunset. So it's just really this, I love this because you can really just kind of just get lost in painting this, because you don't have to follow, like if you're painting a dog, obviously you have to follow the lines and make sure it's perfect and all that stuff. But something like this, you can get lost in. Put on the music, put on an audiobook. I am an audiobook person when I'm painting. I used to try music, but I find that if I'm listening to music, I tend to want to get up more often, because it's, I don't know, it's easier to get up in between songs. But with audiobooks, I tend to sit a lot longer and get a lot more done. So, which is really helpful if I have quite a few orders and stuff. I can really, you know, push through, and or like right now I'm painting 2 little French bulldogs, and it's very detailed. So I've been listening to an audiobook and getting quite a bit done with it. So it's very helpful. What do you guys do? I'm assuming you're listening to me at this point. Not listening to music. I'm your audiobook. What do you guys like to listen to? Like if you're painting this, maybe you can just watch this and try painting it without watching it again. See if you can do that. That would be cool. And then you can listen to music or listen to, it's not a very long painting, so this would be fun one to do with music and just get lost in it and, you know, just get lost in the moment. So I'm finally adding a saguaro. So this is, I'm using a light brown for I'm using a ruler basically to make sure it's straight. And then I'm using a light brown kind of to the left of the saguaro, because the light's coming in from the sun that way. And then I'm going to add a black to the right side. If that doesn't make sense, you'll see in a second what I'm talking about. It's basically the sun. I'm using the sun to lighten up the saguaro. Saguaros are, they're a little bit more green, but because of the way the sun is and everything, I'm making it a little bit more brown because you're losing some of the color. And I'm freehand painting this, but if you're not comfortable with that, then just take a pencil and sketch it out first, if you don't want to freehand paint it. I see these guys all the time because I live here. So for me, it's really easy to paint because I know exactly what they look like. So as you can see, I'm adding the black right now, and don't worry about the lines being perfectly straight because saguaros aren't perfectly straight. So if you were wondering, yes, that's what this cactus is called. It's called the saguaro. It's kind of what we're famous for. It's spelled S-A-G-U-A-R-O, but it's pronounced saguaro. And the easiest way for us to know if you're a tourist is by what you call this cactus, if you even call it anything except a saguaro. They are protected here in the state of Arizona. We love them, so we have no problem protecting them. We do cherish these guys, and I find that Arizonans in general tend to really appreciate their landscape, and we really do like our landscape, and we really do what we can to protect our landscape here. So I'm doing straight lines. This is kind of the grooves in a saguaro cactus, and they are not perfectly straight. I'll show a picture here right now. So as you can see, they're not perfectly straight, and then yeah, you have the little prickly thorn things on the side there. So I'm just drawing those little lines, and don't use a ruler for that, because like I said, they're not perfectly straight. So the more organic you can be about that, the better. Or just do the whole thing in black if you want. You don't have to do the highlight part. And as you can see, you can see a little bit how it is a lighter on the left side, so the sun's reflecting a bit. And then I'm adding kind of your bushes and your, like, I guess what you would think of like a tumbleweed type of things. But we have a lot of bushes and stuff out here, so that's what I'm adding. And it's just basically doing a really light stroke of a brush, and that's your bush. I'm not really taking the time to make it too detailed, because it's from a distance, so you don't really see the details in it. It's just enough that you can tell that there's some bushes there and the cactus and everything. And I'm fast forwarding through this part because it can get a little boring watching this. It's just basically dotting the paper. I'm adding a couple more saguaros. Not all saguaros have arms. In fact, most of them don't, because it takes a little bit for them to grow their arms. So the younger they are, the less arms they have. And then, of course, if they have no arms, then they're really young. And they do take a very, very, very long time to grow. So if we have a fire, like a couple years ago we had a fire, and a lot of the saguaro was burned, it is devastating. It takes an extremely long time for that landscape to recover. At the last second, I decided to add birds. I don't know why. Okay, so in my head, these are not birds, they're bats. I'm adding bats. But you really can't tell the difference between a bird and a bat when they're that small. You can tell really from the way they're flying. I don't know why I decided. I always do this. I always add birds. It's just a thing I do. Okay, so I'm taking off the tape. See how it's a nice clean line? Let me know what you think. Hopefully you love the way yours turned out. I'm going to show you what it looks like here in a second without the tape. There you go. And I'm happy with the way it turned out. I think I'm going to do this one again. Leave comments, and don't forget to subscribe.